All right, let's talk about a new piece of AI tech called Claude Skills. We're going to do a no-hype, practical dive into what they are, how they actually work, and most importantly, what they mean for anyone out there trying to build smarter, more specialized AI agents.
So here's a problem that every single developer building with LLMs has run into. These agents, right, they're amazing generalists, but the second you try to make them a specialist at something, it can turn into a total nightmare. You end up just cramming the context window with these huge prompts and tool schemas, and it just eats up tokens and sends your costs through the roof. The big question has always been, how do you teach an AI a specific job without, breaking the bank?
Well, it looks like Anthropic has an answer to that question, and it's a new pattern they're calling Claude Skills. And honestly, when you first see them, they seem almost, too simple to actually work.
So what is a skill? The absolute best way to think about it is like an onboarding guide for your AI. And I mean this literally. It's just a folder on your computer, and inside that folder, you drop in instructions, maybe a few scripts or templates, basically everything the AI needs to know to do a specific job, exactly like you'd prep for a new human employee.
And building one is incredibly straightforward. There's one file you have to have, skill.md, and that's where the main instructions and metadata live. Then, you can toss in whatever supporting files you need, Python scripts, docs, examples, you name it. But here's the really cool part. Skills are model invoked. What that means is you don't tell Claude, hey, use the reporting skill. Nope. The model looks at the descriptions of all the skills it has access to and decides for itself which one is the right tool for the job. It's an autonomous choice.
Now, this simple setup is hiding a really clever secret weapon that makes skills so darn efficient. It's a concept called progressive disclosure.
Okay, so this is the magic trick for saving tokens. It's all about how skills manage the AI's attention, its context window. It works in 3 stages. First, at the start of a session, Claude only loads the name and a short description for every skill available. That's it, just a tiny bit of metadata. Second, only when your request actually matches a skill's description does Claude bother to read the main instructions from that skl.md file. And third, if those instructions happen to mention other files, like a helper script, it will only pull those in on an as-needed basis. This whole layered approach keeps the context window incredibly lean.
And the effect this has on efficiency is, it's staggering. A Claude skill on standby might use around 100 tokens. Now compare that to a common alternative like the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. With MCP, a single tool schema can burn through tens of thousands of tokens right from the get-go. Skills load what they need on demand. MCP loads the whole shebang upfront all the time. The difference in cost and efficiency is just massive.
So this brings us to what feels like the main event, right? The showdown between this lightweight newcomer, Claude Skills, and the heavyweight incumbent, MCP.
Let's just put them head to head. The main job for Skills is teaching workflows and procedures, the how-to stuff. MCP, on the other hand, is all about connecting to live APIs and external data. Architecturally, Skills are just simple folders and files. MCP is a more complex client-server protocol. That directly leads to the token cost, super low and progressive for Skills versus really high and upfront for MCP. And finally, creating a skill is as easy as writing a markdown file, whereas an MCP integration requires you to actually implement a protocol.
So when should you reach for which tool? It's actually pretty clear-cut. You want to use Skills when you need to package up reusable knowledge, like how to write in your company's brand voice, or how to follow a complex multi-step process for generating a report. You use MCP when you need to plug into the outside world, accessing real-time data from an API or connecting to your company's database.
Now, all this theory is great, but what does it actually mean in the real world? Well, we're already seeing some early adopters put this to the test, and the numbers are kind of wild. We're talking about an 8 times productivity gain in some areas.
Take a look at the e-commerce giant Rakuten. They use Skills to teach Claude their very specific management accounting workflows. This is a process that involved digging through a ton of spreadsheets and generating complex reports. It used to take a person a full day to get it done. Now, with a Claude skill, it takes 1 hour. That's not just an improvement, that is a complete game changer for a core business workflow.
Technologist Simon Willison just nails the power of this simplicity. He walked through an example of creating skills for data journalism, how to find data, how to visualize it, how to spot a story, and he says, "Congratulations, you just built a data journalism agent that can discover and help publish stories, and you did it with a folder full of markdown files." That's how accessible this whole thing is.
But here's the twist in our whole showdown story. These two technologies,
They aren't actually meant to be competitors. The really smart way to use them is together. They're complementary.
So think of this as two layers of a modern agent stack. You use MCP as the plumbing. It connects your AI to all the tools, the APIs, the databases, the live data feeds. Then you use skills to teach the AI the correct workflow for using those tools, following your company's specific rules and procedures. When you put them together, you get an AI that can not only grab live data, but also knows exactly how your organization wants that data to be handled.
So, what does this all mean for the future? Well, as powerful as this pattern is, it's super important to understand that there are still a few rules and limitations you need to know about.
Right, to keep this a no-hype guide, let's be real about the current constraints. First, skills have no direct network access. They can't just go out and call an external API by themselves. Second, they can't install new software packages on the fly. They have to use whatever libraries are already available in their environment. And finally, your custom skills don't automatically sync up everywhere. A skill you build for the API needs to be managed separately from one you use on the Claude.ai website. These are just important things to keep in your back pocket.
But even with those limitations, the potential here is enormous. Simon Willison puts it best again, saying, "I expect we'll see a Cambrian explosion in skills, which will make this year's MCP rush look pedestrian by comparison." He's basically betting that this simple, shareable, folder-based pattern is about to unlock a massive new wave of innovation.
And that really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on, doesn't it? As we look ahead, is it possible that the real future of AI isn't just about building bigger and more powerful models, but about creating better, more specialized, and easily shareable toolkits that pretty much anyone can build and use? That's the really powerful idea that Claude Skills puts on the table.